the smokers roll. There's a legend cooking in a cast iron soul. Jimmy Mac with a grin and a plan called up two chefs with fire in their pan. He said, I want bold, I want rich and wild. Give me comfort food with a smoky smile. Stormy stirred and Marty dreamed, and what they made was a savory scream. Brisket Mac, Jimmy Mac, that flavor train ain't never looking back. Pulled beef melted, noodles divine, cheese so creamy it'll stop your time. From the pit to the plate, it's a southern snack. Raise your forks for the Brisket Mac attack. It starts with brisket, slow smoked with pride, marbled with magic, tender inside. Then Chef Stormy whipped up a cheddar storm, velvet sauce that'll keep you warm. Marty tossed in a secret spice, a little heat and a kiss of ice. They poured it over pasta gold, and Jimmy Mac said, strike the mold. Brisket Mac, Jimmy Mac, one bite in and you'll never go back. Cream and crunch in a golden shell, you'll swear you've touched the dinner bell. From food truck dreams to five-star stack, it's gourmet love in a cast iron pack. Now folks line up from dusk till noon for the smoky tune of that cheesy croon. Foodies cry and cowboys cheer. Jimmy Mac's Brisket Mac is here. Brisket Mac, Jimmy Mac, it's got that soul food heart attack, but in a good way. Fork it, love it, tell your kid this is the dish where legends begin. So pass the plate, don't hold it back. We're all riding on that Brisket Mac track, crafted by Stormy, fired by Marty, powered by Jimmy. Now devour it, darling.
Thank you for joining us on the Presents Streaming Network.
Well, you guys like the country version or you still like the jazz version?
I like them both.
Okay.
Hard to choose, Marty. That may be the most interesting intro for anything I've ever been associated with, whether that's print media, radio, television. Well done, sir. Well done. My mouth is watering, and it's appropriate that it's noontime, 1 o'clock East Coast to see that, right?
We just threw together some macaroni and cheese and brisket and some ranch footage and thought maybe this would be looking pretty good. But the goal and aim is maybe to do a music video and feature Jimmy in the kitchen. So,
don't feature me in the kitchen. You can feature me looking into the kitchen, but don't feature me in the kitchen. Last time I worked at Flat Top was at Margaritaville in 1994. I think it was. I think 94 is the last time I've ever professionally worked in a kitchen. It's been a while. It's been a while.
You can light water on fire, though.
Oh, yeah, I could do that. I can certainly do that. I can do that, man. I tell you that right now. I can get off the hook here. Like the country and western version, but given the picture of the man behind me right now, I'm a little bit more partial to the earlier version too. Anything with a little bit more of that, what I call New Orleans drunken piano feel, is probably more akin to what my taste in music kind of run to. Although I got no problem with a little bit of country.
Yeah. And Brad Bentley from Fastport and Fastport Studios and Wreaths Across America, and at least 9 other things that Brad supports, including Bastion and veterans, and helping over 20,000 veterans. Brad, what is going on today, Saturday?
It is a Saturday, preparing for a big event next week in New Orleans that we know you're going to be a part of. So people coming in as early as tomorrow for that. Gonna try to get some exercise in today. Might be the last minute of calm before the storm, but it's storm and stormy in your case in a good way.
That's it. What are you thinking? Walking, running, go to the gym, elliptical? What do you got online for today?
I started this thing a while back. Once I hit 50, I started to up my cardio to 1 minute a day.
Wait a minute. When you hit what?
50. Yeah, I'm 58. So I'm going to do 58 minutes of cardio, just so you know.
Wow.
I do some abs, some stretching. I have to stretch now too, unfortunately, but it's part of it, before and after. So it's about an hour and a half process.
Yeah, well, good. Stretching is really good. And Jimmy, going to the boxing club this afternoon to knock out 2 or 3 people, or?
I'm probably going to join Brad over at the gym. I got my bag all packed. Today's a cardio day, which is a groovy thing. My wife and I met when she was in her early 30s. I was in my late 40s, and one of the mid 40s, closing in on late 40s. And one of the deals I told her point blank was, it is important to me that when I am 70 and she is 56, that she not be helping me upstairs. Exactly. I said, when I shuffle off this mortal coil, I would like my wife to actually grieve me as opposed to being relieved for myself and everybody else that I am gone. I think it's important. Brett hit the nail on the head. You get past 50 years old, it is so important to stay physically active. And a friend of mine, this is really cool, made a really good point once. She said that for men in particular, between about 55 and 65, there's this passage they go through where either they get to the other side at 65 and don't look like they've changed that much, or they get to the other side and look like they've aged forever. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I know they said, like, to put exercise into a pill, they believe it's between 300 and 400 trillion. Merck Laboratories, Johnson & Johnson, Abbott, AbbVie, they're like, it's at least a 60 to 90 year stretch of development to get this thing into a pill. But it is the most conclusive evidentiary intervention of any disease on earth. Exercise. If we utilize it as an intervention or put it into the process, it changes everything. I don't care what you want to talk about. Lupus, diabetes, it doesn't matter. Exercise is, we're trying to get it into a laser or a needle or a pill. I mean, honestly, if we could do that, but we think the developmental costs are beyond anything that we've ever done, and that includes, eradicating polio from Earth or guinea worm disease or many of the other things that we're trying to do. We're very close, but 300 to 400 trillion. So the opportunity of that happening anytime soon is little to none, I would think. Yeah.
So stay active.
Marty, how many extra minutes of cardio do I need to build in preparation for the brisket mac attack? Because I know that's coming soon.
Yeah, calorie consumption is literally based on ferocious and voracious portion size. So we start you off with a 1 ounce ramekin. It's a little taste with a baby spoon, a demi-tasse spoon. And then you come back into the kitchen and you demand the skillet. So at that point, people tend to eat like a quarter or a half of the skillet. And caloric intake escalates to 4,000 to 6,000 calories. So Stormy and I kind of step back. We don't want to be assaulted. So you got your cup.
What's the great line from William S. Burroughs? I'll get you to the first checkpoint. After that, you're on your own, man. The decisions you make at that point are absolutely your own. But that's the other great thing about working out. I mean, about really staying active, is that it allows you at the end of the day to go have a great meal. And I can't speak for Brad, but I'm willing to guess he would agree with me. We did a Tough Mudder, not Brad and I, but some friends from Radio Nemo, and I did a Tough Mudder a couple of years back. I have very rarely had such little guilt about consuming the steak the size that I consumed it at the end of that. There's something really rewarding about a nice meal after you really burn some calories. Yeah. Really, really nice.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, I wanted to get you guys on the air to crank up some more SEO, SEM, meta tagging and hashtags and just escalate your platform a little bit more, because as we know that introducing ourselves into various different mediums, radio, whether it's blogging or hitting up Instagram or TikToking or all these things with Radio Nemo and the brand new Fastport studios opening up in New Orleans are critical that we move it around the dance floor also. And this is just one more medium here, being on TV, broadcasting live today on 4 channels of Facebook, LinkedIn Live, under a contract with LinkedIn, and of course YouTube and the Twitch Entertainment Network. So this is just another way to reach humans all across the world. We are taking live questions today. Send us your questions. But I'm going to throw it over to Brad and ask Brad to tell us his impressions so far of the Fastport Studios grand opening there in New Orleans at the historic Degas House. Brad, let us know the 411, man. What's going down?
Well, I think the best way I can answer the question is to give you a little bit of a historical perspective. So I go back more than 3 decades with Dave Nemo, have known Jimmy Mack for the past decade, have seen the evolution of the various shows that they've been involved with. But in the last 6 weeks, the amount of guests that have rotated in, whether that's in person or call-ins in that studio, has been nothing short of phenomenal. And also the caliber of guests that have come on, whether that's in the trucking space, whether that's education, whether that's for some of the veteran programming. So we're very excited to be able to sponsor the studios, even more excited about the ribbon cutting that's coming up next week, because there's so many people that are coming in, and also from the New Orleans community itself. I think that's, the origin story for Dave Nemo. It's where Jimmy Mack grew up. And being able to showcase the historic Degas House in a historic neighborhood with 31 other historical markers around it is pretty exciting for me. So more than anything else, it's just been fun to sit back and be kind of fly on the wall, if you will. You've been part of that. Just yesterday we had someone at the level of like Chef Robert Irvine that's on there, and all points in between from people that we've been able to bring in. But man, it is rapid fire, and there's nobody better to do that. That usually sits across from me when I'm in the studio, and that's Jimmy Mack. So he's the brains behind that and the new format, but it sure has been fun for me. And I think the listeners too are getting used to not only the new format, but all the places where they can find them. I'm getting bombarded. We're seeing chat while we're live on the air, and just being able to know that I can walk into my kitchen and say, Alexa, play Radio Nemo, or pull up something on iHeartRadio or all these other platforms is great, because that hasn't always been the norm. I even listened on the airplane a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
When I was flying back from Europe for 4 hours. I got to hear the broadcast 38,000 feet in the air. So that's just blown my mind.
4 hours worth. Yeah. And then I listen typically on my handheld. I'll bring it up either on Facebook or YouTube-ious. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes I'll put it on the desktop and let it play in the background. Now, talking with Randy, Randy told me that, gosh, he enjoys listening himself. He is turning it on with Alexa. He'll tell Alexa, put on the Radio Nemo show. And so, this has been a huge dynamic shift. And Stormy was talking with me about this morning. Switching from the radio towers up in the sky, 2 400-foot towers, down to satellite transmission for many years and decades, and now to streaming. And Stormy, tell us about, even she has put it on Android Auto on the front of our self-driving car with friggin' air-conditioned seats. Uh, we're really living high off the hog here, guys. I never had a self-driving car, but this car is unbelievable. And that's one of the things. She's like, well, let me just hook up Android Audio, right, Stormy? Oh, you're muted, baby. Yeah. But just
sorry, I was muted.
Yeah, we got you now. We got you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just connect with Android Auto, and then I can stream anything. And so we've been streaming the Radio Nemo shows and the getting those playing across our whole speaker system. And so it's just been great instead of having to rely on either terrestrial or satellite radio or any of those things. Just to be able to stream stuff has been a great convenience.
Yeah, just unbelievable. So all these different methodologies, and I mentioned to Brad the other day, like now we have to start thinking about like way beyond with streaming and way beyond transmission towers made out of steel up in the sky and way beyond satellite. We need to start thinking about the next 50 to 60 countries that we could be streaming to and bringing all those truckers and transportation industry in.
Yeah, I think they came up with a great tagline. They've got some really creative marketing folks on the Radio Nemo side. It was from airways to everywhere. And at first, I was like, I like the tagline just for appreciating the slogan. But now that all these platforms are in place, it's not really an exaggeration. It's a reality. Right, Jimmy Mac?
Yeah. Well, the thing about the programming that we talked about, and one of the reasons why, so you're trying to kind of create this balance between what is happening live and what happens later. And when we kind of came up with the new format, and it's 2 shows right now with a third premiering next week. The Monday show, which is our good friend Dave Nemo, from whom all good things flow. He does a rapid fire anywhere from 11 to 13 guests over a 3.5 hour period. And we drop those men and women in, and they come in and they just basically say, what happened important last week, what's happening important this week, and where can we consume that information? And I'll get to why I asked them to draw us to different platforms that they're invested in and they're involved in. And then the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, is a split show. The first 2 hours are about making a living, and the second 2 hours are principally about having a life. Because if you make a living and you can't have a life, that's no living at all.
Right, exactly.
So what we do in the first 2 hours is talk about trucking, and then after that, Lindsay Lawler, my co-host, for the second 2 hours, she arrives on the scene, and we talk to people who are creating the kind of content that people can consume on the road and people can consume about the road. All right, so they got all of that. That all has to happen live. But then you've got to program the guest in such a way, if you notice, everything comes, and it's a word that I think Marty and Stormy will love, everything comes in bites after that. So we can then take that stuff and break it up into small bites so that the format is an acknowledgement both of in the now, in the live, this is happening, and then later on, you don't have to come back and consume the thing from pillar to post or scroll to find the thing you like. So we have a regular recurring guest, Dean Croak of DAT. He's the chief analyst over there. And he's incredibly popular. He's got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and on Facebook. A lot of people love his content with me. We just have a really great chemistry like I have with Brad. And what we'll do is that we'll then be able to download Dean's content. People can say, man, I really got to get my Dean. I got to get my Dean. Where's my Dean? And then they'll just simply go there and they'll be able to download that particular thing. And the show that Brad was talking about on Friday, we call it Freaky, Feisty, Flinty, and Really Fun Friday. Brad and I went from talking about the incoming administrator at the FMCSA, a pretty in-depth conversation about that, then pivoted to one of the biggest activists against big trophy hunting in equatorial and southern Africa, pivoted from there to Chef Irvine, pivoted from there into a guest who is, many people think, the next Carrie Underwood, pivoted from there into an open discussion of what the social media was saying, and then had a breakdown of country and Western music news. So trucking is everywhere, and it is everything, and it needs to be everywhere all at once. And so that's kind of the way it's all kind of put together. It's an acknowledgement of both the fact that there are people who love live radio. There is nothing like it. The people you've been there, Marty. You know, I mean, you were part of that chat room. That chat room is a blast and a half, isn't it?
Yeah, the chat room alone is its own funny little thing. Forget about what's on the radio. I mean, you guys have unbelievable shows, and that's one thing that hit me hard, right in the gut. Okay, it was first time we listened. We were on Amelia Island with Randy. We went out to dinner with Randy and his wife Susan, and Stormy and I were listening to the show, and I was like, my God, all these guys do on this program is talk about friggin' veterans and bring up veterans and what they're doing with veterans. And I must have heard it like at least 8 to 9 times already in the first hour, and then the commercials. And Stormy and I, both being veterans, both disabled veterans, and myself injured in war, we were shocked.
Mm-hmm.
We were shocked.
It's such a huge part of the fabric of the industry, right? A large percentage. And it's funny with some of the work that Fastport does is we've started going to the employers and getting them to survey their own employees. What they find is the percentage of veterans in the workforce is a lot higher than they thought, because not everybody self-identifies when they go into the workplace.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And Stormy, being an HR goddess, she's even recommended to me for specific roles. You might just want to not check that you're a veteran and do yourself a big favor. And do not at any time ever, never, ever, never, never, ever mark that you are disabled. She's like, I don't care what the survey is. Just put decline to answer, decline to answer, decline to answer.
The only exception to that is, of course, for government roles. You definitely want that
then it's a
30% advantage if you have it.
Well, and the other big exception is, and this is something that Fastport does a lot of great work with their Vet Ready Summit. The other great exception, but this is why it's so important. One of the things we talk about on the show a lot is we are big proponents of, we love our listeners reading. I know that sounds like, what are you talking about? You're a talk show. We're big proponents of read the fine print, take the time to really read up, because one of the things that Fastport does that we talk about all the time, Dave Nemo has become enamored of this concept. The difference between being, we're a grand old flag, high flying flag, we love our veterans, and being genuinely vet ready. And if the company you are approaching, if you can read their material on their website or in interviews, and it becomes apparent they are vet ready, that they actually are set up to onboard vets and take advantage of what the vet has to offer, but also give the vet an opportunity to take advantage of all the stuff that is there for veterans to take advantage of in the workplace, then you can check those boxes off, because it means they're set up. But you have to really read. Absolutely, you have to read. Because
thank God you guys have been so loving towards us, because we are pretty intense. Larry's even mentioned to me, like, you're crushing their mind and skull with all of your email and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not. I've asked Brad like 6 times. Please tell me if I'm bothering you, or I'm not trying to do that. Stop saying that.
Well,
we are pretty intense people, veterans. So.
I love it. It's funny though, and I want to give a shout out here real quick. You've mentioned someone named Randy twice. He's referring to Randy Dye, works with CDO Life, who's a mutual friend.
That's right.
Almost a neighbor to Marty and Stormy down there in Florida. But and I want to say something too on the formats. We rattled off a lot of things, and I just saw popped up someone who was listening on LinkedIn Live, Jim Miller, who's going to be coming down next week. That's and we're looking forward to that. And I'm a huge LinkedIn fan. So one of the things we do when we go to military installations, especially Hiring Our Heroes events, we will conduct workshops. We highlight opportunities that are available in the transportation industry, especially registered apprenticeship programs where they have the opportunities to advance in careers, get a monthly housing allowance if they are in a registered apprenticeship, and really all the other subsectors of transportation as well. But usually before or after us, or if we're on a panel, one of the workshops that's always conducted on these bases is for LinkedIn, because they do such a great job for the veteran community. Now, I will tell you, I won't mention the dollar amount, but I have to pay a monthly amount for my LinkedIn premium access every month.
Yes.
It's worth every penny. I like that platform because you can limit things to business versus maybe some of the other social media platforms. But if you are a veteran or a transitioning service member, you get that premium access for free for 1 year. So they will use that and walk them through how to set up their profiles, show them how to do some of the networking, whether that's geographically, where they're looking to transition to. And then we kind of build off of that with some of the advice that we give from the stage. And one of the things that ties into Jimmy Mack talking about the Veteran Ready Summit is, statistically speaking, if someone is coming out of the military, about half of them, roughly 50%, will leave their first job within 6 months. Now, there's a lot of work that's been put into that, a lot of investment, everything from the DoD to veteran service organizations, the employers themselves, and everybody wants to drive that number down. So one of the ways to affect that is to make sure that companies are setting up, to Jimmy Mack's point about going from military friendly to being veteran ready, having some type of veteran affinity group, having a veteran employment resource group or a VERG, because if they can connect with somebody, especially if it's left of transition, and that's what we encourage them to do. More and more companies now will extend that window. It used to be they didn't want to talk to anybody unless they were within 90 days of exiting the military. Now, depending on the occupation, you can go a year and a half in a lot of cases. And I will tell people, go to an industry you're interested in, try to find some of the top employers, go to their individual website. If you do not see a military tab on there, go to the next company. If you do see the military tab, drill down on it a little bit more. See if they have those veteran affinity groups. See if they have those veteran employee resource groups in place. Then you can connect with someone who will be a mentor. And in a lot of cases, they will have multiple ones for each branch of service. And then that starts a longer conversation. You can get a feel for the culture of the organization. Because at the end of the day, if I had to sum up what we really try to do with our Veteran Ready Summit, is to create better culture. And that's critical to see that recruiting number and also the retention number go up. And that's fair to everybody that's involved, all the stakeholders.
Well, we appreciate it. Guys, when we come back in a second, go grab a coffee, grab a water, hit the head real quick if you need to. We'll be right back. We're going to take a look at some of the news this morning and what's hot in trucking. Give us 1 second. And see you in maybe about 2-3 minutes.
Thanks for watching and stay tuned. We'll be right back. Be sure to support our amazing sponsors. Stop by, say hello, and explore how you can do business together. We truly appreciate their partnership and yours.
Priya Children's Academy provides a holistic education to the children. Total strength of 40 experienced teachers and 850 students. Our STEAM teaching methodology is adapted to meet our students' needs. Our science labs for physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics are well equipped to benefit our students in higher. Computer lab has with internet facility and a dedicated server. Conference hall. Our school's gallery-style conference hall is equipped with multimedia facility, herbal garden. We've 40 type of medicinal plants in our school's herbal garden. School has 3 buses and 2 vans to pick up and drop our students at specific locations. Extracurricular activity. We encourage innovation, engagement, and empathy among students. We're the beacon light in the ocean of knowledge.
Hey, Chef out here. Want to tell you about my Amazon best-selling memoir cookbook, A Chef is Born, chock full of recipes, also ranked the 77th book of all time out of 99, according to the Book Authority.
It's a good book, but I'm a better chef than you. Yeah.
And that concludes another edition of Road Gang Radio live from the Fastport Studios at the historic Degas House. How you doing, guys? Jimmy Mac, Radio Nemo. We want you guys to tune in from 7 to 11 Monday through Friday here on RadioNemo.com. You can also find us at iHeart. You can find us on Odyssey. You can find us on, of course, Facebook, YouTube, and all points in between. Hope you be there. 7 to 11 in the center of the country, 8 to 12. Be there for Road Gang Radio and Nemo Nation.
Let's play a game. खेल
You know what? ये लाइफ सेट वाली लाइन है स्कैम। सारा लाइफ सेट करते करते पूरी लाइफ ही बैलेंस हो जाती है।
Every generation, every sacrifice. Our nation's service members have stood up for our freedom, our families, and our future. Now it's our turn to stand up for them. This year, you can honor their service in a deeply personal way by sponsoring a $17 Veterans Wreath. Each wreath is more than a symbol. It's a heartfelt tribute to the heroes who served and to the families who carry their legacy. Visit wreathsacrossamerica.org to sponsor a wreath today. This isn't just a wreath. It's a personal gift to an American hero.
Hey, I'm Brad Bentley, president of Fastport. We solve America's toughest recruiting challenges through research, technology, and people. To find out more about veteran readiness or registered apprenticeships, visit us at www.fastport.com or www.registeredapprenticeship.org.
Well, Stormy, have to say that you worked on the big rigs, and so impressive to see. My wife grew up working here on the farm. Unbelievable, to tell you the truth. And often, she was working on tractors, and then, of course, transitioned ultimately to jet fighter aircraft. And Brad entered the Navy, and just an unbelievable woman with a long history and heritage of working on big rigs and trucks, and ultimately helicopter engines, and finally F-14 Tomcats even. So she's got a long history. And she was telling me also yesterday about another uncle of hers who is a rodeo champion. So I had not heard that yet, and that got me to thinking. I forgot about my own brother Michael, who lives here in Greenville. That he also is a rodeo champion, and my brother drives a concrete mixer every day. So I know Larry's been real big on transportation industry, but that is one of the most dangerous trucks on the road today is the concrete mixer. Yeah. So kind of crazy to see. You guys have anybody in concrete in your family?
Not anymore. They don't know where they are anymore. I'm sorry. sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
It's no problem. I did want to mention, I saw in the news today, Oregon has tied itself closer to California's advanced clean trucks rule. Was wondering to myself what this was all about. And had you guys taken a look at any of this stuff and what's going on with enforcing all these provisions?
I hadn't personally seen the news on Oregon jumping into that. I know that California has probably been the least trucking friendly state historically, so it's a little bit surprising, but I haven't had a chance to do a deep dive on that yet.
Yeah,
I can give kind of I know you have regular listeners who aren't as familiar with the industry as Brad and I are, and I can simply say that one of the things whether you're left or right, is that one of the great debates we're going to end up seeing over the next 20 years or so is convincing both Sacramento and Austin that they are not the federal government of the United States. My friend Rebecca Brewster and I make a joke that when it comes to trucking in America, it really is, when you remove DC from the equation, a tale of two cities. What is going on in regards to Austin, in regards to tort reform, in regards to a lot of what happens at the border, the southern border, and what's going on in California in regards to the future of what clean energy looks like. And I say both of those things in the absolutely most neutral way. That's where a lot of that policy is getting determined, because depending upon which federal government we're talking about, which people are occupying the White House, eyes will either turn towards Texas or, where goes California, where goes the nation. The other thing is the fact that with Oregon and Washington, so much of their economy is interdependent upon what happens in California, that it often makes sense for them to tie their fortunes to what goes on in California, in the same way that Oklahoma or Arkansas, although southern states tend to have a bigger streak of independence, Louisiana tends not to really care what Texas does on a basic level. And one of the best ways to unify Louisianians is to tell them Texans want to do something. But I think you're going to be seeing more and more of that when it comes to transportation policy. I don't know if that helped, but that's kind of my take.
Yeah,
no, thank you.
A couple of things to add to that. So Jimmy Mack mentioned someone who was Rebecca Brewster. She runs ATRI, which is the research arm of the American Trucking Associations. And interestingly enough, Marty, you mentioned people in your family that have participated in truck radios in the past. So we actually have two of the American Trucking Association's road team captains who will be in New Orleans next week. They're going to actually kick off the broadcast with Jimmy Mack next Wednesday. And then I think on Monday, he has maybe Nikki Thomas and Jeremy on there to talk about their Nothing Without Trucking initiative. And then one other thing, you mentioned this early on about Stormy's background.
That's right.
One of the things that's changed for us over time going to the military bases, we were going after truck drivers initially. That was the biggest shortage that was out there at the time. We've been doing this for about 10 years, but there's been a shortage of diesel technicians. I think the number got up to 20,000 at one point. So take someone like with Stormy's Pass. This is what I would tell them if we're at a base and people come up, regardless of branch, regardless of type of equipment that they worked on. I don't think they understand the opportunities that are actually there for them. So I will say, look, we can put you to work at a trucking company, potentially. They may have multiple terminals. You may be able to grow in advance because of that. You can also go to work for a dealership, work for the OEMs. Look at.
I hate to say this, Brad, but guys are cool enough now to where, like, if the woman says, "So you're going to follow me and drive with me," and like I'm doing my doctorate degree online, so you can do that up in the truck or the trailer or the camper. But I'm going to have to drive around to about 8 terminals for Southeastern and do this. Guys are cool enough in society today that actually don't care. Yeah,
and the other missing piece of that is the travel plazas. Just think of like one network, say like a Travel Centers of America, 300 and something locations. And I have seen their training program. We work with them on registered apprenticeships. We put over 1,000 people into that one program. But they have 8 levels to their training, and it goes up to 5 years. Everything from tire thumpers, going out remote roadside, all the way up to working on the electronics for multiple OEMs types of engines. So those skill sets that she has are very much needed in this industry, and that's something that we've really started promoting in the last few years.
Yeah, and one of the other things too, and this goes back to the show. This goes back to Road Gang Radio. Brad actually has, and I think he set me up for this, is that we have 2 segments. One is called Maintenance Matters. We have it every week with Kevin Lindsay, who is a veteran, a farm boy. Matter of fact, he checks all 3 major boxes to become a trucker from 1950 to about 1980. So he's a farm boy, he's a veteran, he comes from a truck driving family. And Kevin, he is basically the head of maintenance over at Travel Centers of America. He comes on, and he and I talk every week for about 30 minutes, and we get into a deep dive of this, one particular thing or another. I will tell you this: when we went to the YMO Tech, Y-Tech over in not YMO, Y-Tech over in Wyoming, one of the biggest concerns, and this goes back to reading, which is why the show is built the way it's built, Marty and Stormy, is that what we're trying to do is remind people the biggest thing holding people back is not people who can or cannot repair diesel engines. It's people who can't write a work order, who can't make the customer feel comfortable about what is going to happen to their truck, who don't have those soft skills, which goes back to the veteran sphere. Right. Veterans often have those soft skills. They've had, they've had to develop them, whether they're in country or dealing with, civilians in, in hospitality situations. We can go through all the scenarios. The other thing is that we have ATRI on the air. We actually look at those numbers. And, Brad had mentioned ATRI is a .org. They are a not-for-profit, which means the Teamsters use their data, OIDA uses their data, the ATA uses their data. It is, we are giving our listeners a chance to say, this is data that is not tainted by the make the numbers work for us mentality. Right. They have a completely nonpartisan sense. And that diesel mechanic shortage is probably more alarming than the trucking shortage. Trucking shortage is about vagaries in the marketplace. Anytime people are claiming trucking shortages, what they really mean is we have to pay truckers more. I mean, I make the joke about it all the time, but it's like, we got to pay. But the diesel mechanic problem, Brad is right, is growing and massive and requires soft skills. Like, I'm telling you, if you work in Texas and you're a diesel mechanic and you can't speak Spanish, you got a problem.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, you have a problem. And so we need people who are incredibly bright and incredibly hands-on at the same time. So the military, of course, is...
And we're used to so many people. I mean, on our ships, I had Muslims that had every day, twice a day, would go out onto the weather deck and call up to the navigator on the bridge and ask which way is Mecca. I mean, you have Chinese people on your ship. You have many R4 and R7 visas from Belarus and all over Eastern Europe and all over, South America, and you're at sea for half a year on a warship, and people would ask me, but Marty, aren't you afraid that one of them Muslims is going to go up there and pull a goddamn switch and fire something on your ship with Muslims? I'm like, Anthony, we don't have that problem in the United States military. They're not here to bother anyone. They stand in the chow line with Jewish people with a yarmulke on. They're not interested in doing that. And put a damn wrench in the gear down in the engine room. I'm like, Anthony, you need to begin to calm down. It's not happening in the military.
Anthony needs to go to Arlington National Cemetery. More than one grave there has a crescent and star on it.
Yes. Yeah. It's not Anthony. It's Anthony. My name's Anthony. Anthony. Okay.
Right. In my previous experience with I worked for a large apartment community company that owned several, 250 apartment communities, and having the maintenance roles were always hard to fill as well. And it went back to what you said with the soft skills. So I have experienced that shortage as well. So knowing that that's news to me, that the diesel mechanics, because that used to be a pretty popular trade for people to go into. And so I think
I think it's a PR problem too. And when I don't mean like making it popular. What I think happens is that people begin to assume that things are their birthright. Like, we're always going to have diesel mechanics. We're always going to have truck drivers. And so the companies that need to recruit them fall behind the eight ball because they don't develop in marketing strategies. They don't figure out the life living balance that has to go on there a lot of times. And they get outbid by people. Look, there's some terrific people working in the renewable sphere. There's some terrific people working in the construction space, and those spaces, because they had to engage in kind of high-class recruiting, have outgunned a lot of these things as well, too. The other segment I wanted to tell you guys about is called Education Station, where we bring on schools that specialize either in training truck drivers or tech schools. And you're beginning to see is with Generation Z, more and more kids who are coming in there doing the 6 to 8 week program to get their CDL, but also taking a 1-year program to get their diesel mechanic thing, and then taking a 2-year associate's degree to make sure that they actually have a command of the English language. And it's remarkable. If in fact we can begin to see the patterns going on around us, something great could happen in this country, because I think the future of the economy, all economies, is going to be light blue collar as opposed to blue collar or white collar.
Yeah, Jimmy, kind of going back to something Marty asked us earlier was about if we had anybody in families that, drove concrete trucks. Well, first of all, my dad's World War II learned a trade coming out was a brick mason. So I was around mixing mud and doing all that as a kid. But fast forward to now, one of the shifts that we've seen that Jimmy's alluding to is not only at the warehousing level where people can come in earlier, learn how to drive a forklift and maybe do like a docks to drivers program. There's also been a big push for Class B licenses, and a lot of those would be things like the concrete trucks. I know Transforce donated a lot of money last year, announced it at our Veteran Ready Summit to help people like the Next Generation and Trucking Association get down to the high school level and bring people in because of the insurance companies and the the various age restrictions. A lot more opportunities now to get those 18-year-olds started with something. So that's been a really positive thing that's happened in the last couple of years.
And really quickly too, before we move on, and Brad, he knows about this too. There's a program in California, and there's one in Miami as well too, in Southern Florida, where kids are going to high school. Remember in the old days, there always would be the art school, and kids would spend half their day at the regular high school and then get on a bus and go someplace and get to have fun and paint pictures and dance and sing and all that kind of stuff because they were uniquely talented. There are programs now where kids spend the second half of their day learning supply chain, where they learn how to, operate, not big rigs, but they learn how to operate forklifts. They learn how to do, dock orders. I mean, and they're finding that these kids are doing better in English because they want to make sure that they can ace the stuff that they have to read and know for operating the forklift, working in the supply chain. And these programs are, in fact, as Brad is right, have crept into the high schools because these jobs are no longer jobs that parents are like, well, no, you got to go be a lawyer. You got to go be a doctor. You got to go be an executive. Now it's like, oh, wait a minute. As my friend who owned a restaurant said, he was looking at me and they were repairing his refrigerators, and you and Stormy can relate to this. I'm telling you right now, he said, if I could do it all over again, I'd learn to repair refrigerators because these guys are killing me. So there it is.
Yeah, and then there's Stormy making the comment. I did also notice in the news this morning, they published it yesterday, but updated today, the 19th, July 19th. AIM is holding exactly what you guys are talking about, to echo and reinforce what you're talking about, introducing children, let me say it a third time, children to trucking careers. And we would be remiss if we didn't say little Barry is actually signed up for welding classes, firefighting, and this is all in high school. So you're exactly right, Jimmy. They're doing this, and they have the simulator they brought in there through AIM Transportation Solutions. And it's all about, I want to work in trucking when I grow up, so very interesting to see. I'll drop that down, and I'd like to just jump on over to the final thing in the news today is, of course, the leak up there in Port Angeles, Callum County. And this is a tanker truck that's leaking petroleum. It went off of Highway 101 into the Indian Creek west of Port Angeles. It was actually happened Friday morning, so cleanup is almost finished, but keeping our prayers for people in need. And that kind of brought me to, St. Christopher's and all the things you guys have done to help truckers that lose their trucks, have an accident, are injured, disabled. You guys want to just close today's show talking a little bit about all of what you have done to help people in need in the trucking industry and the transportation industry?
Well, I'll let Jimmy take that first, because I know Dave Nemo is one of the people that were instrumental in founding the St. Christopher Trucker Fund. We've done some work there too, and I'll wrap it up with that. But Jimmy,
thank you, Brad. One of the great things about the St. Christopher Fund, truckersfund.org, a lot of people don't understand is that it not only functions as a direct line of help. The joke I make when people ask me, what is it all about? It says it's Aflac for truckers. What they do is they step in because a lot of people have medical insurance or have coverage or have their rainy day fund when something goes really wrong, and they're able to kind of keep up with their medical bills. What nobody tells you is that if you aren't turning, you're not earning. And even though you're in the midst of recovery, even though you got the medical care you need, you end up going broke anyway. That's always the great unspoken of thing, is that people who are owner-operators, independent drivers, live from paycheck to paycheck, suddenly it all evaporates. That, you know, you're not making your truck payment, you're not making your house payment, you can't keep up with the groceries. And so what the St. Christopher Fund does at the fundraising level is it delivers money to truckers in need to make sure that when they get through the darkest part of what they're going through, that their job, that their career, that their livelihood remains intact. That's part one. What they also do that's really interesting is they have a number of programs to increase outcomes of health. If that makes any sense. They Rigs Without Cigs, all of that kind of stuff. All of this, by the way, was put together by Dave Nemo after meeting a gentleman by the name of Dr. John McElligott, who was desperately trying to find a way to actually help the men and women out there on the road. And he did it. And they realized that if he kept coming on the air and kept calling attention to his programs, and then they sat down and they created an organization called the St. Christopher Fund, because St. Christopher, as you both know, is the patron saint of travelers.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I'm glad you mentioned Dr. John. So my connection to St. Christopher's came in years ago because of Dr. John McElligott, and he actually wrote health columns in some of the monthly magazines that I published for about 20 years. So that was my background before truckload carriers and before getting into Fastport. But it was a cross-promotional thing. It was to raise awareness for that. But there was a benefit, obviously, to the readers as well, because he is a Vietnam veteran. I think I'm correct on this, that Dr. John is the only Vietnam veteran who is still actively operating as a physician in the state of Tennessee. He's done some amazing work. We got introduced to Donna Kennedy and other people in their organization through him. So that was some of our initial work with St. Christopher. There's a lot of other groups that are out there that do some great things. I know Jimmy Mack broadcast and Dave live from an event last year, a fundraiser that we were part of for another group called Truckers Final Mile. And I was really pleased with some of the commercials that rotated through today, because I think the overall theme, Stormy and Marty, is giving back. And there's a lot of people in the industry that have done a great job with that. You highlighted Reese Across America with that, and the transportation services that have been donated to get those Reese delivered to thousands of locations. We've worked very closely with the Vietnam Veteran Memorial Fund for the traveling wall that heals. It's going around the country.
That is remarkable. That is such an extraordinary event. And Dave and I, there are actually photos of Dave and I carrying one of the panels to actually help construct the wall. It's 3/4 of the size of the actual wall.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, we're a plaque donor for the West Florida Vietnam Veterans Wall, and Little Barry has done Wreaths Across America through Scouting America, just here locally at Kings Mountain Cemetery. So it is a vibrant program across the United States at all cemeteries. And I would say Barry is also an expert grave cleaner and is very skilled at rebuilding graves. So when Barry finds like little toys that were left and flowers, rearranges all those, puts those all back together in such a wonderful way. It's just an amazing kid.
It's a natural gift in the city of New Orleans, since everybody has to do it November 1st all across the city. I think only Warsaw, Poland does a better job of fixing up people's graves on a yearly basis than the city of New Orleans does, because of All Saints Day. It's watching a lonely overgrown tombstone or gravesite get transformed back into a place of love and care is an extraordinary thing. Yeah. It's extraordinary.
I think you guys can see it there. More than 70% of the approximately 3.5 million professional truck drivers in the United States suffer from health issues. Again, stuff that you never even think about with this new SUV that we bought, self-driving SUV, just stupid. Stormy asked me yesterday, you're looking at your phone, do you want to turn on the assisted driving? I was like, yes. But at another point, I told Stormy, I says, I hope that they have this crap for truckers, and we got to get my brother-in-law James on with his brand new 2025, or Stormy's brother Kai with his brand new 2023 Cascadia. you know, the automatic lumbar support comes on in the chair. It starts with massaging your back and stuff. And I'm like, this freaking inventions that they have in these cars is unbelievable. Okay, the thing drives itself. I got air conditioned seats with an ice cold tushki, you know, and now I've got the lumbar massage coming on automatically anytime you're driving. I think, honey, what is it, like at the 22-minute mark?
20 to 30 minute mark, it comes on automatically.
I hope they have these in the new trucks. I really, because these inventions we've never experienced this level of unbelievable invention, guys, you know, in transportation. I mean, we feel very fortunate to even have this.
Marty is saying that our SUV is self-driving, but it does have you keep your hands on the wheel. So
no, we understand. We know,
but it makes little. Yeah, it's like assisted driving with making micro adjustments to help you stay in your lane and that type of thing. And
when I'm on my phone like this, and she says, "You haven't touched the wheel for like a minute," I'm like, "Don't worry, it's getting ready to come on with a flashing warning thing." Put your
Marty, you are literally making all of the truck driving audience that we have that's listening right now have an absolute what I would call Mac attack, heart attack right now.
Yeah, brisket Mac, baby.
Brisket Mac attack. It's coming up on the hour, guys. We appreciate you so much. I thought that maybe I would play the jazz version of the Jimmy Mac attack, and then we'll close out the show with everybody. And we did record 4 versions of this. I understand you guys like the Western Cowboy version a lot. The big one that it seemed like everybody loved was the jazz version. So let me put that on real quick. This is the Jimmy Mac Mac Brisket Attack song that I wrote and did the lyrics and the music for.
Out in the hills where the smokers roll, there's a legend cooking in a cast iron soul. Jimmy Mac with a grin and a plan called up 2 chefs with fire in their pan. He said, "I want bold, I want rich and wild. Give me comfort food with a smoky smile." Stormy stirred and Marty dreamed, and what they made was a savory scream. Brisket Mac, Jimmy Mac, that flavor train ain't never looking back.
You can see those women up on stage doing the 3 ladies.
I have a visual already.
It's a southern snack. Raise your forks for the brisket.
I see 3 ladies in dresses doing the backup.
It starts with brisket, slow smoked with pride, marbled with magic, tender inside. And Chef Stormy whipped up a cheddar storm, velvet sauce that.
All right, guys. We're going to hear more music on the 23rd. When we come back live, we'll be on every day in New Orleans. We're going to have a huge party, music, food, laughter, bourbon, Jimmy Mac. That's what we call it now. Jimmy Mac, bring out the skillet. It's Jimmy Mac. It's not macaroni and beef anymore. It's just give me some Jimmy Mac. And we look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you so much for everything today. Hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend.
Love you guys. See you soon.
Thank you.